the reality is. We're following with the second panel for the day, and it is all about the journey to zero trust, where we have been and where we are going in cybersecurity. Amazing topic, isn't it? To conduct the panel, I invite the panel moderator, Ms. Temitope, Information Systems Auditor, Venture Garden Group, and we have a panel speakers, a wonderful lineup. Mr. Anthony, Associate Director, Cybersecurity and Privacy, KPMG East Africa. Mr. Wicus Ross, a Senior Security Researcher, Orange Cyberdefense. Mr. Precious Olives, Cybersecurity Engineer. And Mr. Yusuph Kileo, Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics Expert, AfICTA Board, and MemberBC-Rep. So I give the floor to Ms. Temitope, and it's all yours for the panel.
Hi, Shamati. Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you so much. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Cybersecurity African Summit 2022. It's been amazing. I've been here all day and I've learned one or two things. And yeah, so the journey to zero trust, where we've been and where we are going to in cybersecurity. Over the past 3 years, our lives as IT professionals, techies, business owners has changed, right? And the truth is, it's not going to change back to the normal. We have a new norm, which is the remote work. Many businesses are emerging, and we now have addition of new devices connected to the internet, and which basically means high risk of cyber crimes. The shift to the remote work is, like I said, is not going to change any soon. COVID-19 and the adversaries have extremely aggressively changed the world, and sadly brings new vulnerabilities in. So what's next? That's what we are here to discuss. What's next? Now, for me, I think now is the time to expand and accelerate zero trust. So I, like Shamati has mentioned, I'm privileged to be here with knowledgeable IT professionals, and I went through their profile and I was like, yes, I should be here to learn. I should be here with these individuals to hear what they actually supposed have to say about zero trust. So basically, it's just going to be very interactive, but I know that as much as many other delegates out there, we would want to know, how did you even find yourself in your field? And after that, you can just give us an overview of what zero trust is. We really want to know about the zero trust, and also we want to know about you to kickstart. Let's just familiarize ourselves with you. Then just in 1 minute, then we'll go into the business of the day. Thank you. So Wicus Ross, please, can you go? So good to have you here. I'm so open to learning from you. So please go with the introduction, then an overview of zero trust. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Wicus Ross. I'm a senior security researcher with Orange Cyberdefense. I've been in the field now for a couple of years, and I've been privileged to be able to research interesting topics as they come up and understand how we can apply that to our business and how our clients can benefit from that. Zero trust is quite a contemporary topic. There's a lot of activity around it, especially in the last 2 years since lockdown and COVID's happened, for a good reason, because zero trust is all about enabling businesses and to work in an environment which is changing rapidly, and to be able to still do that in a way that's secure. Now, zero trust, and the important thing about zero trust is it's a security model, it's a principle, it's an idea. It's not necessarily something that you have. It's a very abstract concept, and it's something that you can use to change the way you think about or adapt your business into applying these principles in a way that makes sense to your business, but also to complement what your business is doing. And I think a key aspect here is when you look at the traditional way or the classic way of doing security, where you have your perimeter-based defense, like your firewalls, etc. You have your untrusted network and your trusted network. The idea of zero trust goes beyond that, saying that we don't care about where you're sitting on the network. All entities or all resources interacting are treated the same in the fact that we need to know who they are, and we need to be able to authenticate them and apply policies to them, and then be able to ensure that those authenticated entities can only access what they are supposed to access using least privilege as a concept. It doesn't necessarily mean we don't trust anybody, we don't spy on our people or anything like that. It purely means it's a principle, it's a model that we apply to the way we deploy and run our infrastructure. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Thank you, Wicus. That was
yes.
That's a good start for us. So yes, so I'll move on.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does. Yusuph, please go ahead. A quick introduction, then
Yes.
what zero trust is to you. I'm so glad you could make it today.
So I've been in the field for a long period of time. I've worked with also cybercrime unit, fighting cyber criminals back in Tanzania, and I managed to do a lot of things in that field, fighting criminals that are troubling myself through cyberspace. Jumping to zero trust, I think I just wanted to add one important thing. That in the zero trust basically means that to trust nothing or trust no one, whether you're inside the network or outside the network. All of you should not be trusted. So you need to go authentication processes to make sure that you are actually accessing network while you're actually the person who's supposed to access that particular network. At the simplest form, you can say that's about zero trust. And I think it's quite important to many organizations currently because of many things and because of many challenges that have been seen currently through cyberspace. We have a lot of people now working in hybrid working environment. We see people now working from home, from everywhere, and other people working in the offices. So there is a lot of people working from remote workforces that are trying to access a network. And those people, they need to get access to those particular networks that are working on. And basically, if you don't have these zero trust, you may probably allow people who are not supposed to access network from outside. And also have the story of insider threats that currently is really troubling many organizations. I think even the US, they decided to dedicate month of September to become the month of insider threats because of the challenges being very big. So basically, zero trust is there also to mitigate these challenges of insider threats, because people from within the organization also are not trusted. They need to go through processes, no matter whether you're inside the organization or outside, as I've said earlier, and my colleague Ross there, that the way he mentioned earlier. And of course, the other thing is that we have a lot of people currently utilizing these cloud-based services, and basically not particular services, they pose a lot of challenges to our organization. So zero trust is there to mitigate those kind of things and many more things. Then I think this is basically why we find this particular word, zero trust, buzzing a lot nowadays through internet, and everyone is curious to be a part of it, making sure that the organization are implementing this particular solution. I think that's what I would say to start with. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Awesome, Yusuph. Thank you for that great introduction. So I'll move ahead to Anthony now. I hope he's here already. Anthony, we lost you the other time. Are you here? Are you back now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
hear me
we can.
clearly? Sorry,
Go
can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Sorry, thank you so much and thank you for the opportunity. So my introduction is Muiyuro. So I work for KPMG as the cybersecurity leader across East Africa. I'm also the president of AfICTA Kenya chapter. So maybe just to give a quick introduction, particularly when we talk about zero trust, and I like what my colleague Wicus mentioned earlier on, that zero trust is not really a solution, it's not a tool, but this is a model, this is an approach, this is an architecture, and this is also a strategy that ideally aims to make sure that the security of organizations is actually upheld in a more advanced way, enabling some of these subtle principles where we talk about micro-segmentation, access controls, and making sure that at every point in time you're always verifying that the people, devices that are also connecting to your environment are ideally the ones that are supposed to be connecting. So by principle, the verification is actually the key enabler for this, that you're not trusting anyone or any device, but you're going to have a mechanism of continuously verifying this. So that is how I normally summarize this zero trust paradigm, because I know we've had a lot of marketing exaggerations where particularly some vendors would ideally call it a tool, and it's not really a tool, but it's an approach. Thank you. Back to you, Temitope.
All right, thank you. So what I hear from you guys is zero trust is a framework. It's the new face of cybersecurity. Thank you so much for that intro. So we have one more person joining us, Precious Olives.
Okay, concerning zero trust. Okay, first of all, my name is Precious Olives. I'm from CYSEC NG, Cybersecurity Nigeria, inclusive Officer Victor, and I work as a cybersecurity engineer. We focus on different levels of threats and vulnerabilities and more. Just heading straight to the topic in terms of zero trust. I've had my amazing speakers talk about zero trust, and I'm really supportive of everything they say, because zero trust is basically not a solution. What I prefer to mention is like it's a model and a principle. In my own time, I want to also say it's a form of mentality people should have. It's more like saying we don't trust any system we find ourselves into, be it internal or external, in a network, whether we're inside of a network or outside of a network. We do not trust this network, and we act as though we want to implement every form of security and every form of strategy wherever we find ourselves in a network, in an internet, because we have in our field, there's something we call the insider threat and an outsider threat. You don't know who could serve as a link to a threat actor, or who could be a threat actor. We say in an organization that the strength of an organization really depends on their weakest link. So which means, be it an insider, your organization, we can only agree that they are really strong based on how much knowledgeable, or I would still want to prefer to use the term, how much zero trust they have whenever they find themselves in a network. So it's a mentality, it's a principle, and it's a model. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Precious. I love what you said about the mindset and mentality. I totally agree with that. So moving on,
main value is that we're going to we have this as I've said earlier, that we have a lot of challenges with insider threats at the moment. So if we do have this particular zero trust in place to this organization, then definitely it will help us to mitigate those challenges of insider threats, because every user that probably may want to get into other people's networks, then utilize other people's identity, then they'll be easily we will easily capture them, and we'll be able to tell, because they have to go through verifications. So that's one thing. But two, as I've said earlier, the story, many organizations get into cloud services, also putting their sources on cloud, meaning that if you have adapted this zero trust model, then basically those kind of services won't be a trouble to you, because if there is any service, probably you think like someone may get into it and so on and so on, they'll be able to stop those kind of challenges or risk, because everyone who is going to get inside your network will be able to identify themselves. So that's very, very important. And another thing is for those people who are working from everywhere, as I've said earlier on, that you have people working from everywhere, but we need to allow these people to access our system and be able to provide services in our organizations or provide input to our organization. So basically, that is very important. If we do have this zero trust model implemented to organization, it will help those people not to be easily having a lot of challenges. Like, for example, you may find some people accessing our system from home or from other part of the places away from the organization itself, and probably people may utilize that those people who have access to our devices and pose as legitimate users to our devices and systems in our organization. So basically, that will be able to mitigate those challenges of people working from different areas. So these are the main importance or the need for our organization to adapt to zero trust model or a strategy to the organizations.
All right, thank you. That is so mitigate challenges. So challenges, both the common ones in the cyberspace, that is what zero trust is here to do. So I'll move to Wicus Ross. So I would like to know, and I know other delegates who also like to know, how do I start zero trust journey? How do I start? How do we even begin this?
Well, the zero trust journey is quite an important one that you need to make sure that you have it. You define your strategy. It's in line with what your business is doing, because as the previous speaker said, the value of the zero trust goes into the fact that it's a business enabler, and you should make sure that when you start your journey, that you have a strategic plan in place that explain how you're going to do this, because zero trust or applying the principles of zero trust need to be done over a long-term period. It's not something that you just put in place and then you turn it on and it works. It's a systematic process you got to go through. Depending on the size of your business, you need to choose how you're going to do that, where you want to deploy it, and you don't want to impact your business continuity at the same time. So low-hanging fruit is probably an easy start. A common answer to this question is multi-factor authentication on all the important accounts, for example, is a good start. But remember that zero trust in itself, and the way that you look at it from a maturity point of view, has got multiple facets. But I'll allow some of the other speakers to elaborate on that.
All right, thank you so much. So I got the strategic plan from you, long-term goal, systematic approach, and understand where you want to deploy. I think these are 4 points that I got from that. So also, I would like the delegates, drop your questions. I'm not going to be doing this alone. Drop your questions. We are all here to learn. So we really need to understand this new phase of cybersecurity. So I would move the mic to Anthony. So I also want you to elaborate on how to start this journey, because we really want to know.
All right. So thank you very much. I trust now my line is better, quite clearer. So apologies for that earlier technical hiccup. So yeah, just to align to what my fellow panelists have also mentioned, that that this is a journey. Zero trust, achieving it is a journey. And it ideally takes a lot of things that normally come together, a lot of solutions that come together. But before embarking on the technical journey, it's good to understand that this is enabled by effective processes. And you also need to have like a governance approach in terms of how this is going to come together. Particularly, I always say have a TOM, target operating model. What does success look like? That has to be very clear from the very onset. So then while you're doing the implementations, you're guided by something. You have a North Star. So having clarity of the end goal and what you want to achieve becomes very clear. So that's number one. You need to lay it down. You need to have a proper governed approach in terms of, you know, the governance on identity and access management. How will the cloud workloads look like? How will the different, you know, interfacing components be like? And how will this architecture look like, right? And then, of course, there's also now where the tools now come in place. I always say that at the heart of Zero Trust, data and analytics is very, very important. These tools need to speak to each other. You need to have visibility end to end of your environment, basically based on what you've defined to be, you know, the operating model. Because we normally say in security, visibility is everything. You need to have an understanding, or you need to have data of, you know, what is happening where, right? So, and then of course, the configuration then will ideally follow what you've ideally defined. So key things I want to highlight, like I've mentioned, target operating model, your success, you have to have a very clear picture of what this is going to look like, the solutions that are going to come together, how will this come together? By the end of the day, you need to create what Fortinet defined as a security fabric, right? A security fabric where these solutions ideally are closely knitted together, they speak to each other, and you're able also to get the data that you ideally need to be able just to even perform some of this advanced security fine-tuning. So that is very important. But then, of course, the people aspect is also very, very important. You cannot isolate the talent agenda from this thing. So having clarity on the roles and responsibilities, the people that are going to support you and what they're going to do becomes extremely critical. Back to you, Temi.
Nice. Thank you so much. I love what you said about the governance approach, the priority model, and what success looks like. What success looks like. It's very important. So you see the end goal and you are able to pursue it. So you stole the next question, and that was importance of Zero Trust. So I'm going to move on to Precious. So Precious, what's the most important aspect to you? What's the most important aspect of Zero Trust? So can you just shed light?
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think I would really want to see reference to me that the most important aspect of Zero Trust is, first of all, adopting the Zero Trust mindset. Once you have adopted the Zero Trust mindset, it makes everything flow easily. First of all, you have to have a coordinated and aggressive system and a monitoring system, management and defensive operation capabilities. And that will help you to make your structure and management. And secondly, which is also another important aspect to me, is first of all, assume that all requests for critical resources and network traffic may be malicious. Is the mindset. You have to first of all assume that every incoming and outgoing request that comes from your in and out with your day-to-day activities in an industry, your company, are all malicious. Have that assumption. Then the next is assuming that all devices and infrastructure may be compromised. In my field, we mentioned something that it's not a matter of if a person will be hacked, it's a matter of when. And organizations need to put that mentality that, yes, we may will be hacked or will be attacked or be victims, or we may be potential targets for cyber attacks. The question is, are we going to be ready when that time comes? And that's why we want to have that ability to put in our mind that, well, we need to assume that all devices and infrastructure will be compromised, and then we'll take the necessary steps to do that. And finally, I would say one other thing we need to do is accepting that all access approvals to critical resources incur risk, and being prepared to perform rapid damage assessment, controls, and recovery operations. This helps you to strategize and understand that everything you are accepting, all approvals and every critical resources that you accept in a company may incur some level of risk. So if you put yourself in a mindset, with that mindset that, first of all, I don't need to trust what comes in and comes out, I need to put in mind that companies or companies might still be a potential target for cyber attacks, cyber attacks, and also have it in mind that all incoming and outgoing requests and malicious. That is a very first important step to carry out a zero trust journey. And with that, I think every other thing flows really much easier.
Thank you so much for that, Precious. So adopting the zero trust mindset and just putting in a monitoring system. I think that's what I got, and very, very important as well. So drop your questions. Like I said, I won't be doing this alone. I'll be doing it with you guys. So still on zero trust, I would like to know, for now that we understand the value of adopting zero trust and also understand what's important. So knowing that people risk is one of the things that we face in cybersecurity space, do you think there's a need to train the staff of the organization about zero trust skills? We already agree it's a framework and you have to have the mindset, right? So do we even need to, is the awareness part necessary? So I'll give Wicus Ross this to help us address, please. So is there a need to have your staff attain the zero trust skills?
Yeah, I think with anything, I think Anthony mentioned as well, is like the people is an important aspect of your business. People are the big thing that makes it go. Machines by themselves or the tools by themselves can't do anything. So you need to invest in your staff and your people to make them understand why you're doing certain things. Even if it means that you're a CISO or you're a IT security administrator, and you identify a new approach about how to improve your environment. So you need to, first of all, maybe even educate internally at your executive level. And by explaining to the executives that might not be technical or understand where you're coming from, and using a business language to do so, to explain to them the business benefits. So that first level comes out in explaining to your internal stakeholders. And then at the same time, educating them about what is zero trust and how will it benefit the business. Then at the next level, you probably already have your technical people that's quite familiar with some of these concepts, and honing their skills and their understanding of why is zero trust different from what they've been doing before. Even when you go to the general staff that doesn't really have a technical background in security, at least illustrate to them or explain to them why is it important to have strong authentication. And I'm not just talking about strong passwords, I'm talking about the whole idea of multi-factor authentication and the continuous verification process that's around that, but also illustrate to them the value of doing that. And I think some of your earlier speakers today even talked about phishing and all the social engineering. Zero trust is one of those things that help fight that fight as well. So education at multiple levels, not just at technical levels, which is important. So understand technologies that you have in your business to leverage it better, but also to educate your business stakeholders so that they can understand the value and why is it that important to invest so much in this over a long period, and ultimately, talk that, use that to talk to your shareholders, even in your customers, to explain to them the value that's being generated inside the business through this quest. And I'm sure some of the other panelists will also talk about it, but digital transformation is one of those things that's quite wide and touches on it, and zero trust is one of those enablers for that. If you have everybody on board with that, through understanding why is that we need to do this.
All right, thank you.
Just
thank
to
you
add, to add on what Rose has mentioned there, I would say that if this education is quite important, because also it reduces the need for you to enforce your people to follow or to adapt to this zero trust mechanism that you're going to deploy to your organizations. Because once someone understood why is it important, why he or she is supposed to go through those verification processes and so on, basically it will help those particular individuals to do themselves without you forcing them to do it. So that's very, very important. We encourage organizations, we encourage institutions to make sure that they train their people to understand the reason to understand why is it important for them to adapt to this zero trust mechanism or strategy and so on, for them to be able to follow procedure, to be able to get along with it without us having a lot of energies to force them to go through those verification processes that are needed on the zero trust.
I think you're on mute, Temi.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so we have thank you Yusuph for buttressing the points. We have few questions from other delegates I would like to share. So Anthony, over to you. So this question talks about what are the top challenges in zero trust and how can they be mitigated?
All right. I think the first, and I think this is normally one of the biggest challenges, is normally the mindset. And that is why also Wicus talked about, that paradigm shift, particularly for people just to understand, because it might be an expensive affair. I've done these implementations for clients and, they have to really invest. So it's that paradigm shift that, what we have is working. Why do we need to approach this? So that is number one. Number two, when you talk about technology, is normally a question of just having the right tools in place, right? And having these tools to basically speak together. Remember what we said earlier, zero trust is not a solution. It's not a vendor box that you just come and put in place and then voila, you have zero trust. That is a big misnomer. But zero trust is a combination of many other tools that need to work together. So another challenge is normally achieving, and a bigger challenge there is normally achieving that security fabric, like I mentioned earlier, that these tools ideally can speak to each other, that you have data coming from all these tools, that there's a bit of correlation and there's a bit of coordination coming from this array of things. So once you achieve that level of connectivity between those tools, then it becomes also easier. Of course, we normally talk about maybe use different flavors of different tools. You find a vendor might have a solution extremely good on one domain in security, another vendor has another tool so extremely good. For instance, maybe it's anti-malware, right?
Is it only me that I cannot hear him or everyone else?
Yeah, I can't hear Tony too.
Yeah, I think Tony, you're lost. We cannot hear you.
All right. Okay, so before he joins back, let me just move to the next question. And I'd love Precious to help us address this. What are the best practices of zero trust in cloud environments? Oh. So what are the best practices? Before you go, I just wanted to point out, just for the, hello? Okay, just for the person that asked the question of mitigation, I know one thing Anthony mentioned was the mindset and technology. So these are two things that you are likely to face challenges when you're implementing. So I'll move to the next question now. Precious, are you there to help us address this? What are the best practices of zero trust in a cloud environment?
How best you could implement zero trust generally is, first of all, this is one of the reasons why we have things called honeypots in very good organizations. The cloud environments, they have endpoint securities. Endpoint securities help make sure that whatever comes in and out, it helps to recognize that. In cloud environments, we have different type of structures that endpoint securities can be implemented on. Also, why people work in cloud and good enough platforms like Google and more have tools that you could use for incoming links and more, that they scrutinize all of these things, or mails, links that come into your system, to make sure that this particular stuff are not malicious in terms of through phishing or other types of malwares. I'd rather really want to indicate the focus most likely on the counterpart system. And most organizations have this thing of treating documents that come in and out on the system. We have structures where we have cloud counterparts to make sure executables documents are all tested on this platform before they are really distributed in case of malwares and more. So I think I would really love to see if pick up the ideas of my other panelists relating to this, if they have amazing ideas on how to focus more on cloud.
All right, thank you, Precious. So I'll quickly move the mic to Wicus. So what are the best practices of zero trust in cloud environments, just to buttress what Precious has said? Thank you.
So the previous speaker spoke about malware and threat intelligence, and I think that's an important aspect of zero trust in general, to be able to monitor what you have and to be able to identify malicious activity. For the cloud environment, there's typically you have a architecture called SASE, Secure Access Service Edge type approach that you can follow. And the nice thing about that architecture, which uses zero trust network architecture as a core principle inside it, is the fact that it uses existing technology called CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker, firewall as a service approach, as well as software secure web gateways, which is also an important part for when you look at identity aware proxies, so that you can be able to connect to aspects of your business from anywhere, and then use the CASB plus the DLP process on that to be able to limit data leakage. Combining that with your software-defined networking, or SD-WAN, which is important to be able to link your cloud, because most of the time if you're a cloud native solution, then it's straightforward. But it's very rare that one organization will only be in one cloud provider. They might have multiple cloud providers between Azure, AWS, GCP, or even on-prem when you go more hybrid. So you need something that can bridge that gap for you. And using cloud access broker combined with your zero trust network access, your SD-WAN, your firewall as a service approach with secure web gateways, those technologies combined together can provide you a holistic approach to an architecture that will address most of those problems. But once again, those are architectures, they aren't specific technologies for a cloud. It all depends on how you want to deploy it for your business and what makes sense for your business.
All right, thank you. So I'll move to Yusuph now. Yusuph, so help address this last question before we take more like a conclusive part. Where can we buy the zero trust? Where can we buy the zero trust?
As I've said earlier, and many of other colleagues mentioned earlier, this is a combination of many things. You cannot say that it's a one solution that you can buy in one particular shop or one particular service provider to provide you these services. It's inclusive of many things. For example, we have those identity and access management solutions that they can help you identify people that are accessing your systems or networks. That is one thing. But also we have those things like, for example, you can combine it, for example, with intrusion detection systems. There are many things together. So it's not, we can't have a particular place that we say, here is where you can buy these things, because it's a combination of different solutions coming together to make sure that people, you can identify them, you can detect if there is any challenge, you can be able to see your data properly, the way they move in and out. We have things like DLP tools and so on. So many things. We have even antiviruses that can also be deployed to support you in one way or another to mitigate or to supplement this zero trust. So basically, to make my answer a little bit shorter, is that we can't really have one place that we can say, here is where you can we can advise organization to buy zero trust. It's a combination of different solutions coming together to put in one organization. So it depends on your area. Maybe, for example, some people that can give out different experience of different solutions that are deployed to make sure that they supplement or make their zero trust solution to be well managed to their organizations. And just to put that in perspective, I think I wrote an article 2-3 days back, and I give out some of the experiences of different individuals on how they put together different tools, 5 or 6 of them, to make sure that they can fully be able to implement zero trust to the organization. So it's not something that you can buy one place. Many providers can provide different parts and buy them together to bring an organization to so that they can be able to solve these challenges.
Well said. Thank you so much. It's been an awesome session, and I thank all the speakers. Thank you, God. Thank you for bringing your knowledge to the table. Thank you for giving us this time. I really learned a lot. I've really learned a lot. So for us, zero trust is beyond the framework. Zero trust is beyond implementation, is more of the mindset. So that's my takeaway for today. I'll move it back to the host. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Temitope, and the wonderful speakers for helping the participants know about zero trust a lot more better in what they know. Thank you very much, Yusuph, and thank you very much, Precious, for joining us today, and the moderator as well.